soft hoofbeats on hard-packed dirt, a sunrise somewhere behind you, and a letter you really shouldn't read burning a hole through your satchel. You're already moving. The leather saddle creaks beneath you, and the world smells like dust, animal sweat, and something faintly metallic, maybe from the revolver strapped to your side, or maybe just from the dried blood stain on your shirt that no one has asked about yet. You lean into the chill wind, even though it stings your eyes. The day is young, and you are exactly 3 hours into a 75-mile ride with one job. Don't die, and don't lose the mail. In that order, welcome to the Pony Express. It's 1860. You're somewhere between Carson City and Salt Lake, though you lost count of the miles once your canteen started to feel lighter. The trail is a long ribbon of nothing, the sky an upside-down bowl of sun-faded blue. You are, for lack of a better term, profoundly alone. And the envelope inside your leather pouch sealed in wax, smelling faintly of cologne and fear, was handed to you by a man who whispered, "Don't read it unless you have to." Of course, you won't read it. You're a professional. You also have absolutely no idea what "unless you have to" means. Is that a polite way of saying when the screaming starts? Now, here's your gentle reminder to like and subscribe. Not because we'll chase you down on horseback if you don't, but because this channel loves strange history almost as much as it loves helping you sleep. Leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Who knows? Maybe there's another midnight rider out there, somewhere in Ohio. You probably won't make it through this day. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You dig your heels in. The horse grunts, speeds up. The path ahead dips through a narrow canyon-shale cliffs on both sides. And somewhere above, the distant cry of a hawk that sounds more like laughter. You know the names of these places only by rumor. Dead Man's Hollow, Mule's Skull Cut, the pass that screams at night. People have a gift for naming things like they want to be scared of them. And yet, this isn't just about fear. This is about urgency. You're part of the Pony Express, a service that promises mail from Missouri to California in just 10 days. A technological miracle, really, if you ignore the part where you might die of thirst, ambush, horse failure, or boredom in the middle of Nevada. In truth, the Express was both marvel and madness. Riders were often teenagers, wiry, fearless, and underpaid. Legend says they were sworn in with an oath to avoid profanity, drunkenness, and dueling. You're currently 143. Historians still debate whether a rider named Simeon Mallory really vanished mid-route or just rode away into Utah with someone else's gold teeth and a bottle of whiskey. Either way, his horse came back alone. And you, well, you're getting close to one of the old relay stations. A low wooden shack with a crooked chimney, just visible now through the dust. You squint because something's wrong. There's no smoke. No one waves. The place is silent. You slow your horse, not because you want to, but because something in your chest tells you this stop might be your last. You swing down, boots thudding softly, and approach the door. There's a letter nailed to it. It's addressed to you. You haven't even arrived yet, and someone already knew you had come. Welcome to the job. Inside the station, it smells like old sweat and something sour, the kind of silence that tastes metallic. You crack the door open with one hand on your pistol. Not because you expect a fight, though, let's be honest. That's always on the table, but because the room feels recently emptied. Not abandoned, just paused. A single chair is knocked over. A tin plate sits half-finished on a wooden table, beans crusted in the shape of a bite mark. You touch the stove. It's still warm. Whoever left did so minutes ago. The letter on the door is unsigned. Just your name, scrawled in a handwriting you recognize, but can't quite place. The wax seal looks official, though the crest is a bird with two heads, which you're fairly certain isn't the U.S. government. You hold it up to the light. Inside, a single sentence. Deliver this and never speak of the woman at Willow Crossing. You have questions, like, what woman? And where's Willow Crossing? But more pressingly, who exactly thinks you won't talk about something that specific? You tuck the note away, not because you're brave, but because the room has shifted in mood. You feel it like being watched by something with dried eyes. You step outside. The sky is still clear. Too clear. You mount up and head east, towards the relay that doesn't give you letters addressed to you before you arrive. Your next ride is quiet, almost too quiet. No birds, no wind, just the rhythm of hooves and your own thoughts, which are mostly debating whether this job includes hazard pay for ominous warnings. The Pony Express, after all, was not meant for espionage. It was meant for letters from mothers, invoices from bankers, proposals written in shaky hands with rose petals stuck inside the flap. Heartbreak, sure. Murder conspiracies, less so. And yet, as you ride, you remember a story. Back in Nebraska Territory, a rider named Amos Griggs carried a letter from Fort Kearny to Julesburg. When he arrived, he looked 10 years older. Claimed he'd seen a child walking alongside his horse for 20 miles. Only the child never made a sound. The mail he carried? An unsigned letter containing only the words, "She still sings." The story ends with Amos throwing his pouch into the Platte River and vanishing into the hills. He was replaced by a 16-year-old named Reuben, who lasted exactly 3 weeks before swearing he'd never again sleep near a cottonwood tree. Historians still debate whether the singing child was a hallucination, a metaphor, or just an unusually musical raccoon. No consensus. You spot a trail marker, a bent iron spike nailed into a crooked pine, carved into the wood beside it, barely visible. Willow Crossing, 12 miles. You were never supposed to know that. You reach for your canteen. It's empty. Of course. And as your horse picks up the pace again, you feel something shift in the wind. The temperature drops, not dramatically, but just enough to make you notice. The next relay is a half day out, and you're starting to wonder what exactly is in that pouch. For now, you ride. You breathe. You try not to think about the woman. She's already thinking about you. The wind changes again. Colder now, and it smells faintly of rain and something floral, like wilted lilacs left too long on a grave. You wouldn't have noticed it at first, not unless you were looking for it. But now that you're alone again, miles from the last station and even farther from the next, your mind starts sorting the strangeness like mismatched socks. The trail narrows into a canyon pass. The sides are steep, carved by wind and time, the rock face dotted with names scratched in with nails and pocket knives. You slow your horse to a walk. No need to break a leg on the shale. And then, there it is again. That smell. Flowers where there shouldn't be flowers. 12 miles from nowhere, and yet the air holds the same faded sweetness as a churchyard after a summer funeral. You glance around, half expecting to see a bouquet lodged between the rocks. Instead, there's a wooden sign nailed to a twisted tree. Willow Crossing. No arrows, no map, just the name. So it exists. Or existed. You dismount, stretch your back. Every vertebrae cracks like old parchment, and walk the edge of the trail, where the trees grow too close together. You know better than to leave the road. But the smell grows stronger. Lilac, cedar, the faintest trace of smoke. When you spot the structure, your mind takes a moment to believe it. A one-room cabin, almost swallowed by vines. The roof has collapsed in the back. A rocking chair, still intact, faces a dry creek bed. There's no sign of life, but no sign of death either. You step closer. Just a peek, you tell yourself. Just one look. Inside, the place looks kept, dustless. A wash basin with water still in it. A cup of tea, cold but fresh. Someone lives here, or did recently. On the table lies a letter, unsealed, with no envelope. Just a folded piece of paper. You know better than to read it. You read it anyway. I told them not to send it. The message is cursed. It will find him and bring him here. It always does. It's unsigned. You stare at the words a moment longer than you should. The truth is, the Pony Express wasn't meant for this kind of thing. You're a glorified relay baton. A fast one, yes. Sometimes even heroic. But you are not a priest. You are not a detective. You are not equipped for cursed correspondence and haunted trail stops. Still, you tuck the letter into your pouch. Something about it feels unfinished. You step out into the light. The rocking chair rocks once in the wind, and the creek bed, dry a moment ago, now whispers faintly with water you can't see. You mount up. From here on, the road is less a road and more a suggestion. But you ride. And behind you, from somewhere near the cabin, a soft voice hums, a lullaby. You recognize it, though you've never heard it before. Your horse refuses to cross the bridge. You can't blame it. The thing looks like it was built by a drunk ghost with no sense of structural engineering. The bridge marks the border of what locals once called the Listening Woods. You've never heard anyone say why. They just say it like it explains everything. You dismount, lead the horse by the reins. The planks creak under your boots. One of them snaps, but only after you've passed it, just enough to make you rethink your career. And then it starts again. The humming, soft, tuneless, impossibly close. You look back, nothing. You look forward, also nothing. You really wish this job came with a manual. By the time you reach the other side, you're sweating despite the chill. The air smells less like flowers now, more like mildew and smoke. You remount and nudge your horse forward. The trees lean in close. Pine needles brush your shoulders. You think about the letter. Not the cursed one. You've got a few of those now, it seems, but the original. The one the man handed you back in Carson City, with that same desperate glint in his eyes that says, "I'm giving you something that might kill us both." You haven't looked at it. Not really, but you felt it shift in the pouch, almost like it wanted to be read. Historians still debate whether Pony Express riders ever opened letters out of curiosity. There are no official records, obviously, but one diary kept by a rider named Elijah Wirt mentioned seeing handwriting change mid-sentence on a page he never meant to look at. He later died when his horse drowned in a dry riverbed. No one knows what that means. You emerge into a small clearing, and for the first time in hours, you see another person. She's sitting on a stump, pale dress, hands folded, face turned toward the setting sun. Not moving. You slow the horse. She doesn't blink. She doesn't breathe. And yet you feel watched. You clear your throat. "Mom?" No answer. You dismount, because you've clearly lost your mind already. May as well finish the job. As you step closer, you realize something odd. She casts no shadow. The trees do. The stump does. But not her. There's something carved into the wood beneath her feet. She listens. She remembers. She waits. You decide not to wait. You turn back. You mount. You ride fast. The path opens back into a more familiar route, and with it comes the wind. Fresh again, cleaner. But in your pouch, the letter feels heavier. Like it's soaked in something thicker than ink. You glance down. The wax seal is cracked. You didn't open it, but something did. You do not look at the letter. Not yet. Not with the night thick around your shoulders, and the trail behind you curling like a question mark. The trees have thinned out, but the feeling hasn't. That sensation of being followed by something that isn't using footsteps. You know better than to name it. Names make things real, and you've already made too many things real today. The next relay post is a low wooden building with warped shingles and a door, that leans open like a drunk leaning on a friend. The windows are dark. There is no candlelight, no firelight. Just a swinging sign with no words left on it. The letters faded years ago, or were never painted in the first place. You tie your horse loosely. It steps away from the door. You do not force it. You step inside. The air is warm in the way that cellars are warm. Trapped warmth, wrong warmth. A single lantern flickers on a table made of mismatched boards. Behind it sits a man who could be 40 or 80, or no one at all. He does not look up at first. Then he does. Eyes pale as paper. Movements small and slow, like he's conserving energy for something that never arrives. Did you deliver it? He asks, no greeting, no nod. Just the question you place the mail pouch on the table. He does not reach for it. You expect him to, but he only watches you. Like he is waiting to see what you will admit. There were 3 when you started, he says. Now there are 4. You know he is right. You have not checked in hours, but you feel the weight. He gestures at the bread on the shelf behind you. A clay jug next to it holds water. Eat before you read, he says. It slows the turning. You do not ask what that means. He speaks like a man who answers riddles with more riddles. You sit. The bread tastes like dust, but goes down easily. The water is warm, slightly metallic. The kind of water that remembers being snow a long time ago. You untie the pouch. The flap opens stiffly, like it remembers being closed too long. Inside are 4 letters. You pull them out and lay them on the table. One has your name in red ink, sealed again even though you remember burning it. Another is blank. Another is half torn. One is marked, not to be opened before arrival. Arrival where? You do not ask. You open the red letter again. You do not want to. You do it anyway. The scent rises before the words do. Lilac and ash and something faintly coppery, like old coins in a wet hand. You are not meant to remember, but remembering is the only way out. No signature, just a single fingerprint on the bottom corner. Yours, you are sure of it. The man behind the table stands now, quietly. He does not touch anything. He only says, she does not stop following. She waits for riders who do not forget. You do not know what that means. You do not want to. You gather the letters. Your hands shake. You say thank you without meaning to the man is already gone. You step outside. Your horse is still there, breathing steady but low to the ground now. As if trying to disappear into the dirt, you mount. You ride. You do not look back. The relay station does not disappear, but it feels like it should have. You ride in silence for a long time. The trees return. The night deepens. Somewhere behind you, a bird calls out once and is immediately answered by something that does not sound like a bird. The letter hums against your ribs. You do not speak. You are learning. Morning comes with no sound, no rooster, no wind, just light, pale and cold like water, poured into an empty room. You have not slept. Or maybe you did for a few minutes with your eyes open. It does not matter now. The world feels dreamlike in the way that pain sometimes does. Slow, blunt, bright at the edges. You are on the trail again. Your horse moves stiffly but surely. You speak soft words to it every few miles. Not instructions, just company. Just reminders that you are both still here. The path splits ahead. Left goes toward Fort Churchill. You know it well. Loud men, dusty rooms, coffee strong enough to kill insects, familiar faces that ask no questions. You could go there, pretend none of this happened, drop the letters in a fire and say nothing right leads into a canyon that was not on your map. You do not remember it yesterday. It was not there. It is there now. You take the right path. The canyon is steep and narrow. The walls close in until the sun itself feels like it is whispering through a keyhole. There are no signs, no sounds, no birds, not even insects. Just you and the soft crunch of hooves and the knowledge that you are not alone even if you are. The letter has changed again. You do not look at it, but you feel it in your pouch. Heavier. Not with weight, but with story. With intention. Halfway through the canyon, you find a stone marker. Square. Deeply carved. The letters are clear despite the weather. Return what was carried, or remain what you became. You stop. You dismount. You reach into the pouch and pull out the red-sealed letter. It is warm now. You place it on the stone. Nothing happens. Then a breeze. Sharp and slow. Carrying lilac again. Carrying a sound like someone folding a shirt in another room. When you look back at the stone, the letter is gone. The canyon behind you narrows even more until it is gone too. You ride forward. The path opens. The sky grows brighter. Not warmer, just more visible. In the distance you see a town. Small, crooked roofs. Smoke rising from a chimney like a lazy hand waving you in. You ride slowly, not from fear, not from pain, just reverence. For something you cannot name, your horse finds the road like it remembers it. At the edge of town, you see a woman in a wide-brimmed hat sitting beside a postbox. She does not wave. She only watches. You reach into your pouch. There are 2 letters left. One of them is addressed to her, and one of them is still blank. You are starting to understand. You are not finished delivering, and you are not finished being delivered to. The town greets you the way abandoned places do, quiet, watchful, and too symmetrical, like it's posing for a photograph no one took. You follow the main road in, though it's not marked as such. Just a wide stretch of hardened earth, bordered by buildings that look freshly swept, but completely empty. Shutters are pulled closed in perfect rows. Laundry hangs stiffly on a line, unmoving. A rocking chair shifts ever so slightly on a porch you don't see anyone leave. It doesn't feel ghostly, just paused, like everything here is waiting for a sound that never came. Your horse slows on its own. Its ears twitch. You pat its neck. You don't say anything. There's something about silence in places like this. It asks for respect. Ahead, the only figure in sight is a woman seated by the postbox. She wears a wide, flat-brimmed hat. One hand rests on her lap, the other on the edge of the mailbox, like she's steadying herself for news. She watches you the way statues in old graveyards watch visitors, gently, silently, and with more memory than you think you deserve. You dismount. Your boots tap against the gravel like apologies. As you walk toward her, you reach for the pouch before you even know why. Your hand finds the letter without looking, the one with her name in your handwriting, though you know for a fact you never wrote it. You stop a few feet away. The smell of lilac is back, faint but unmistakable, like dried petals forgotten in the corner of a drawer. "I think this is for you," you say. She doesn't look surprised. She nods, but only barely, and takes the letter like someone receiving ashes. "You're late," she says, flatly, without blame. You don't argue. Time doesn't behave properly on trails like the one you've just ridden. Days stretch, minutes fold. Some places forget what season it is. You've come to expect it. She does not open the letter. Instead, she turns it in her hands. Her fingers pause when they reach the seal. Then she looks up at you for the first time. "You kept the other one," she says. You blink. "What other one?" She gives a half smile. It doesn't reach her eyes. "You'll remember when it's time." She stands and walks past you. Her steps make no sound. You turn to follow, but the street behind you is empty again, as if she walked into the air and was politely received. You're left with the wind, your horse, and the sensation of having missed something important. You mount up and continue down the main road. The buildings become less clean as you go, more sagging, more real. People begin to appear. Not many. A few figures behind dusty windows. A child watching from behind a cracked shutter. No one speaks. They only look. They seem to be waiting. You arrive at the post office. It's a brick building with chipped paint and a porch that leans forward like it's eavesdropping. One window is boarded. The other reflects only the sky. You tie the reins, though the horse does not seem inclined to move. Inside, the room is warm and smells like ink, rotting paper, and something sweet and slightly spoiled, like forgotten jam. A man stands behind the counter. Gray vest, collar buttoned, sleeves rolled. His face is sharp in that indistinct way that makes you think you've seen him before, but can't say where. He gestures without a word. His eyes never leave yours. You hand him the pouch. He sets it down, opens it, reaches inside. He pulls out the letter you thought was blank, holds it to the light. His brow furrows, just slightly. He passes it back to you. This one's addressed to you, he says. You stare at it. The envelope now bears your name, your full name, in handwriting you haven't used since childhood. I didn't write this, you say. No, the man replies, but you've been carrying it a long time. You step outside into the wind. The letter trembles in your hand. You don't open it, not yet. But you know now, this delivery was always about you. You leave the town without a sound. No doors close behind you. No one waves. Even the wind holds its breath. You ride slowly. Not because you are tired, though you are. Not because your horse is wary, though it is. You ride slowly because you are no longer pretending this is about speed. You are no longer pretending at all. The sun is out, but the light feels like it's passing through something. A thin film, the kind you find on old window panes. Warm, but distant. Present, but filtered. You ride through open land. Sparse trees, low hills. The road ahead is dust and scattered grass. It doesn't feel like the way forward. It feels like the edge of something. In your coat pocket, the letter breathes softly. You can feel it through the fabric. Not moving, just existing. Like a secret you've agreed to keep from yourself. By midday, you reach a river. It glides between worn stones with a sound like whispered apologies. The water is cold and clean. Your horse bends to drink. You let it. You crouch beside the current. In its surface, you see nothing unusual. Your reflection, the sky, the trees. And yet, as you look longer, something flickers. A bridge behind you. A woman in white. A small child standing beside her with a sealed letter pressed to his chest. You do not turn around. You just breathe. You cross the river. The water reaches your knees. Your boots fill. The cold climbs your spine like a memory you forgot was yours. On the far side, you find a clearing with no road out. Just grass and a crooked fence. A place not marked on any map. A place no one spoke about. You stop, dismount, sit on the ground. Let your fingers rest against the sealed envelope. You open it. Inside, one line. She remembers the name you buried. No explanation. No address. No instructions. Only the truth you have avoided. You fold the letter. You place it back in your coat. You stare at the fence. You think about where this ride started, where it was supposed to end. You close your eyes. A breeze moves through the clearing. Lilac. But you are getting closer. You are not finished yet. The clearing feels like a room with no door. Grass whispering. Fence half fallen. Sky wide and waiting. You sit with the letter pressed flat against your chest. The sun has shifted, though you can't remember it rising. The light feels different, like it has passed through too many places to reach you. Distant and over-traveled, just like you. You do not know where you are. Not exactly. It is not on your map. It is not on your route. But it's where the trail has always been leading. You feel it in your hands, your knees, your back, all the places that ache now, not from distance, but from memory. Your horse grazes at the edge of the grass, not far, but not close. It does not want to be part of this moment. Animals are good at knowing when to step away from the sacred. You stand. The wind folds around you, soft and full of pollen. It smells like lilac and dust. There are no sounds here, not even birds. Just the hum of your own heartbeat and the letter reminding you you're not done. You walk toward the fence. It leans in places. In others, it stands proud. No gate, no obvious way in. You step through anyway. The fence does not stop you. It just watches. Inside is nothing. No house, no grave, no stone or statue. Just a circle. A wide open place where the grass grows differently. Taller, lighter, more gold than green. You step into the circle. Everything changes. Not violently, just gently. Like sinking into water without noticing. The air is thicker. The silence is full. And you feel briefly and completely known. A voice hums. No words, just tone. Female, low. Like someone singing to a baby already asleep. You speak before you know what you're saying. I'm sorry. Your voice sounds strange here, like someone else is using it. You feel something in your hand, the letter again. Except now it's heavier. You open it without meaning to. Inside one sentence. You arrived late, but you arrived. There's more ink on the page now. A faint shape. A map. Lines curling like veins. A location circled near a river bend you don't recognize. You close the letter. The wind carries a single leaf across the circle. It spins once and disappears. You step out of the fence line. The world resumes. Birds call, distant crows, a lark. The smell of lilac fades to pine. You mount your horse. It does not resist this time. You ride. The road is back now, faint and rutted, but present, as if it had been waiting for you to remember it. You check the map again. The place is real, and it's not far. Just another day's ride, if you keep moving. You're not sure what you'll find, but you know now, this has never just been a route. It's a return. You ride with the kind of quiet that follows an answer. Not peace, exactly. Just less panic. The trail winds low through a stretch of yellow grassland. The road narrows and widens without pattern. Sometimes you lose it altogether, and then find it again under a branch or beside a rock, shaped like a sleeping man. Your horse breathes more easily now. You do too. The letter is tucked back into your coat, its warmth steady. You don't read it again. You don't need to. You've memorized the map, not just the drawing, but the feeling behind it. This is not about delivery anymore. This is about arriving. The day grows long. The sky changes color slowly. The light turns honey-colored, then rust. Shadows stretch and tangle. You pass no one, no other riders, no footprints. Just a world that seems surprised to see you still moving. By late afternoon, you reach the edge of a river valley. It matches the map exactly. A bend in the water. A bluff covered in oak and willow. A fallen cart half swallowed by earth. Birds circle overhead, as if unsure whether to stay or go. You descend slowly, hoofbeats muffled in the tall grass. The valley is still. A quiet more natural than the one in the town. Less staged, more honest. You find a tree near the water. Large, low-branched, shaped like it was made to be weighted beneath. You tie your horse loosely again. Always loosely now. You walk the edge of the river. You feel the current in your legs. The air is cooler here, cleaner. The grass brushes your knees. You reach the spot. You know it is the spot. There is no sign, no marker. Just a feeling in your spine that says stop. You kneel. You open the letter one final time. Inside is not writing now. Not really. Just impressions. A name. Yours. A second name. Someone else. And one line, now faint and faded. She waited here for years. Your hand lowers the paper to the earth. The wind shifts. You hear something behind you. Footsteps. Barefoot. You do not turn. You close your eyes. A hand rests lightly on your shoulder. It is neither warm nor cold. Then it is gone. You remain for a long while. The river moves. Birds return. Your horse stamps once, patient. When you stand again, the letter is gone. And you are not alone. Not exactly. You ride out of the valley as dusk falls. Not faster. Not slower. But changed. The road no longer resists you. It simply unfolds, mile by mile, like it was always part of your story, waiting to be reread. The valley fades behind you. The wind has softened. Your breath moves more easily now, no longer caught on old names or unread lines. The sky above is a calm shade of dusk blue, the kind that makes you forget what hour it is. You've stopped counting anyway. Somewhere along the trail, time became less of a direction and more of a passenger. You ride without urgency. The trail is mostly downhill now, with the trees stepping aside to let the prairie in. Open land, yellow grass, and occasional fences that seem built for things no longer living. A crow follows at a distance. You do not acknowledge it, and it does not ask to be known. The next relay station appears just before the stars do. A one-room cabin with smoke curling from its chimney like an old man stretching. It's the first sign of warmth you've seen in a while that didn't feel borrowed from something else. You tie your horse to a post that leans to the left and approach the porch. The floorboards creak like they're trying to remember your weight. The man who opens the door wears a thick vest, a wool scarf, and an expression like he's been waiting for someone, though not necessarily you. His hair is white, but his eyes are quick. He doesn't ask your name, just steps aside and gestures toward the fire. Inside, the room smells of stew and coal. A cot in the corner, shelves lined with tin cups, and a single oil lamp throwing soft light across the floor. You sit by the hearth. He hands you a bowl and says nothing. You eat, slowly, gratefully. I passed through a valley, you say after a while, more to the fire than to him. He nods, like he knows the place, like he might have left something there too. They say some letters aren't meant to be delivered, he says, just carried, long enough to change the one holding them. You look down at your hands. The burns on your fingertips have healed. The ink under your nail is still there. You haven't written a thing, but something about you remembers how. I thought this job was about getting messages to other people. You say, it is, he replies. But sometimes the route goes through you first. You sleep that night in the cot by the window. Dreams come, but not as stories. More like smells, voices, places you've been and places you almost were. When you wake, the stew pot is empty. The man is gone. But a new letter sits on the hearthstone. No name, no seal, just folded paper. You open it. Last route, turn east at the split. You'll know it when you see the stone. You fold it and tuck it into your coat. No hesitation this time. The trail is ending. You can feel it in the soles of your boots. The trail splits in the early afternoon. Beneath a sky the color of tarnished silver. One branch curves upward toward rocky ridges, dry grass, open air. The other sinks into trees so dense they seem to drink the light. You do not hesitate. You turn east. The forest closes around you like a door, shutting gently but firmly behind your back. The sun vanishes, though no clouds pass. The air smells of lichen and dry leaves and rain that hasn't yet fallen. The road narrows into something less than a trail, a suggestion, a memory in the dirt. You pass a stone half buried in the moss. A shape is carved into it, deeper than time allows. A circle nested inside a triangle. It pulls at your stomach like a hand reaching through your spine. You do not stop. You do not touch it. You feel it watching as you pass. Your horse slows. Its ears flick forward, then back. The silence here is heavier. Not stillness, presence. Something alive in the quiet, and it does not blink. You reach the clearing at the end of the path just before dusk, though there is no real sunset. Just a fading of color. A dimming, like a lantern wick being slowly turned down. The building in the center looks old, but not decayed. Intact, but uncertain. Walls of timber covered in moss. A roof bowed, but not broken. Windows that reflect nothing. A porch with a single nail where a sign might have hung. A lantern sways above the door. It is already lit. You dismount. Your horse paws at the ground once, as if trying to stay. You tie the reins to a branch anyway, and walk forward. The door opens before you knock. Inside, the light is soft, warm, amber-colored. It smells like dried herbs and weathered wood. Time moves differently here. You feel it settle in your lungs. A woman waits. Middle-aged, straight-backed, dressed in black and gray, with a ribbon tied in her hair. Her hands are folded. Her face is not cold, but neither is it kind. She looks at you the way a ledger looks at an ink blot, curious but unimpressed. "You've arrived," she says. You nod. It's the only truth you're sure of. "You can sit," she adds. So you do. A cup of tea is already on the table. You hadn't noticed it before. Steam curls up from the surface, like a question you're not ready to ask. You raise the cup and drink. The taste is sharp and earthy. Cedar bark, orange peel, something unfamiliar that makes your tongue tingle. "You've carried it far," she says. You don't answer. You don't need to. She gestures toward your coat pocket. You reach inside and remove the final letter, the one that never left you, the one that refused to be delivered, the one you pretended wasn't yours. It's warm again. You place it on the table. The envelope is blank. The woman doesn't move. Go on. You open it. Inside is a mirror. No writing, no emblem, no stamp. Just a small, smooth mirror the size of your palm, set in a frame of dark wood. You lift it. It's heavier than it should be. Your own face stares back at you, but not quite your face. It's younger, tired, yes, but not like this. There's more curiosity in the eyes, less regret. The version of you that took the job, that thought this was about mail and time and distance. The you that hadn't yet been changed. You stare, and then the face in the mirror begins to shift. Wrinkles fade, then reappear. Your eyes brighten, then dim. Your mouth smiles, then doesn't. 100 versions of you flicker past in half a second each. Every version that ever was, or could have been. You set the mirror down. You look at the woman. "What do I do now?" you ask. She tilts her head slightly. "You choose," she says. You wait for more. There is no more. The mirror still sits between you. It reflects only what you are willing to see. For a long moment, you say nothing. Then you reach forward and very gently close the letter. You slide it across the table. "I'm done carrying it," you say. The woman smiles, almost. "Good," she replies. Then you're ready to leave. You stand. Your knees creak. Your spine aches. But the weight is gone. Not lighter. Gone. You step outside. The air is different. It smells like fresh bread and the moment just before rain. The light is clearer. The shadows calmer. Your horse lifts its head, ears forward. It seems relieved. You mount. You look once more at the house. The lantern above the door flickers once, then goes out. You ride slowly back through the forest. The trees part more easily now. The path widens where it once closed. The stone is still there, but its shape has faded. No triangle, no circle. Just weathered gray, like any other rock. You do not look back. You do not need to. You are not lost. You are not delivering anything anymore. But you are still riding. You ride through the thinning trees with the quiet certainty of someone who is no longer being followed. The trail unwinds like ribbon over the land, wide and soft now, no longer tugging at you with mystery. The forest breathes behind you, exhaling whatever weight it had kept coiled in your spine. For the first time in a long time, the horizon feels real, like it will stay where it is. There are no crossroads now, just a single road that curves gently downhill, bordered by wheatgrass and low juniper. You pass a fallen fence that no longer holds anything in. A rusted lantern hangs from a branch. It's unlit, but it sways once in acknowledgement as you go by. A farewell from the old world. You do not check your map. You do not open the pouch. There is nothing left inside but dust and the folds of empty paper. Even the straps feel lighter. You pass a mile marker carved into a bent tree. The number on it is worn away, but someone etched a note underneath in smaller hand. You're almost home. Or someplace better. You smile at that. It's the first real smile in a while. Not because it's hopeful. Just because it sounds like something a tired person wrote for another tired person. A kindness without obligation. By late afternoon, the land stretches out flat and wide. Rolling hills, slow streams, fences built more for tradition than livestock. You see no people, but you sense them nearby. Smoke curls from chimneys. Wind catches the sound of a bell in the distance. Laundry moves gently on a line strung between trees. You pass a crossroads. There's a signpost with no names. Just arrows pointing in all directions. It doesn't matter. You keep riding straight. You stop at a low ridge as the sun begins to set. Below is a small town. Not the kind you came from. Not the kind you passed through. A different place entirely. Calm, assembled, honest. The sort of place where you could forget things safely. Your horse stops without your command. You both stare for a long while. You imagine yourself stepping into one of those houses. A porch, a kettle, a slow morning, no pouches, no voices in the trees, just walls that don't whisper when you lean against them. You reach into your coat pocket out of habit. It's empty, not just of letters, of everything. No coins, no scraps, no crumbs, not even lint. You feel no panic, only confirmation. You left what needed leaving. The town doesn't rush to meet you. There are no children playing in the road, no shopkeeper sweeping a stoop, but it breathes like something alive and safe. The lanterns are lit. The doors are unlocked. You ride down slowly. Let the twilight settle around your shoulders like a shawl. The sky burns orange, then gold, then finally blue again, deepening toward night. At the town's edge, you find a hitching post beside a wooden bench. You tie your horse. It doesn't resist. It lowers its head and waits. You sit. Slowly, carefully. The bench creaks just once, then settles. You close your eyes. The world holds still. You are not a courier anymore. You are not a messenger. You are not a trail to be walked. You are a person. Tired, quiet, whole. And you have finally arrived. Night arrives without urgency, as if it had been waiting for you to sit down first. The breeze is cool, not sharp. It carries the scent of wood smoke and loam, a trace of something sweet baking in a kitchen you cannot see. The bench beneath you groans slightly again, not in protest, but in recognition, as if it has held many riders like you, bone-tired, word-heavy, unsure whether the weight they carried was meant to be left or remembered. You sit for a long time, long enough for the stars to appear, one by one, without ceremony. They blink above the rooftops, soft and familiar, scattered like old friends who don't need to speak. Somewhere in the dark, a dog barks twice and is answered by nothing. You take it as a blessing. Eventually, a man steps onto the porch of the building behind you. You don't hear the door open, just the shift in air as he arrives. He wears a wool coat, sleeves pushed to the elbows, a book tucked under one arm. His beard is gray at the corners. His face is lined the way tree bark is lined, naturally, honestly. When he sees you, he doesn't look surprised. "Long ride?" he says. You nod. It's the simplest truth left in you. He walks past you, steps down into the dirt, and stares off toward the road you came from. His silence is not uncomfortable. It's spacious. You can stretch out inside it. You're not the first rider to arrive after dark, he says, but you might be the first to sit down before knocking. You glance back at the door behind him. There's a sign, barely legible in the moonlight. It says records in hand-painted letters that have weathered too many seasons. He gestures toward the door with his thumb. This is where we keep the letters that were never sent, or maybe the ones that were read too late. What happens to them? You ask. He shrugs. We keep them. Sometimes someone comes looking. Sometimes they don't. The wind shifts again. The smells change. Rain, maybe. Or just the memory of it. I didn't mean to carry this long, you say. Does anyone? He replies. You sit together in silence for a while longer. Eventually, he places the book beside you on the bench and walks inside, the door clicking shut behind him. You don't open the book right away. It's bound in worn leather, the spine cracked from use. You trace a finger along the edge. The title is stamped in faded gold leaf, The Writer's Ledger. You flip it open. The pages are filled with names, not just signatures. Whole entries, descriptions of routes, weather, deliveries that went wrong or right or sideways. Some include small drawings, maps, tokens, a flower pressed between two pages. There's one written entirely in verse, another in a language you don't recognize, all of it cataloged carefully, lovingly, not for bureaucracy, but for memory. Your name is not in it, not yet, but there is a blank page waiting. You sit with it for a while. Then you reach for the pencil tucked in the spine. You begin, not with the first mile, but with the first moment you realize something had changed. The first time the wind carried more than air. The first time you looked at a letter and saw yourself inside it. You write slowly, deliberately, like stitching something back together, not for others, for yourself. When you're done, you close the book. You place it back on the bench. You rise. The night is full now, but not dark. The town glows gently behind you. The trail you came in on has vanished behind the grass and the hush. And ahead, somewhere just past the last house, another path begins. No urgency, no pressure, but it's there, waiting. You walk the quiet edge of the town like someone who has forgotten how to be followed. The buildings glow with the soft warmth of low oil lamps behind drawn curtains. You pass windows where lace rustles faintly, even though the air is still. Somewhere, a fiddle plays a slow tune, distant and unhurried, the kind of song meant to settle dust and heartbeats. You pause near the blacksmith's shop, where a forge has long gone cold, but the coals still hold the shape of yesterday's fire. The street is made of packed earth and time. Your boots don't echo anymore. They simply meet the ground, like two old friends falling into step again. You walk past a tailor's sign swaying gently on its chain. The words are carved in worn, careful hand. Repairs done here, old or otherwise. You almost laugh. You almost knock. You don't. Not yet. Instead, you continue past the chapel with no steeple, the well with no bucket, the bench with no other rider. This town is whole in its own way. A resting place, not an answer. You feel it in the space between houses. in the comfort of things that don't ask for your story, unless you're ready to tell it. And you aren't. Not yet. At the far end of town, the trail begins again. Not the one you followed here. This is something different. This one doesn't lean west or east. It doesn't dip or climb. It just stretches. Forward. You stare at it a long while. The pouch at your side is gone now. You didn't notice it vanish. It left like a burden finally laid down when no one was watching. You reach into your coat, just to be sure. Nothing. No letters. No maps. Not even dust. Just your own hands. You exhale. And it feels like yours again. Behind you, a lantern flickers out. Another window closes. You hear a screen door creak open, then shut. Life continues. Slowly, kindly, with or without you. You take a step forward, then another, and another. The trail accepts you with no fanfare. It simply opens under your feet. The stars above shift slightly, as if they've adjusted their positions just to see how this turns out. You do not hurry. You do not stop. You walk not because you're being sent, but because you can. And the road, for once, asks nothing in return. Now, let your breath slow. You are no longer riding, no longer walking, no longer carrying anything at all. You are sitting still or lying down, perhaps with your head nestled into a pillow softened by the shape of memory. The trail has folded itself behind you. The forest has let go. The town watches from a distance with gentle eyes. The letters are gone now, delivered, or burned, or forgiven. There is no urgency here, only stillness. The kind that settles into your bones and says, you have done enough. You feel the cool air of night on your skin. You hear nothing but quiet, real quiet, the kind that doesn't ask for your attention. It just is, like water, or time. Somewhere, far away but not lost, a bell rings once. You are not called. You are simply here, and here is enough. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper into rest. Let the breath in your chest loosen like paper returning to the drawer. Let the last thought of the trail roll away like a coin under the floorboards. Not lost, but finished. You have arrived, and you are home. Sleep now. The sun isn't up yet, but you are. Again, and your feet already hurt just from looking at your sandals. You wake before dawn to the cold. Not the fun, refreshing kind of cold. More like the, did the wind come straight off a glacier and sneak under my blanket kind of cold. You sit up in your straw-stuffed sleeping sack and remember, with the sort of resigned sigh only a seasoned soldier makes, that you're in Gaul. Again, the camp around you is quiet in that military sort of way, silent, but full of people very much awake and pretending they're not. There's the muted clatter of armor being buckled, the occasional sniffle, the unmistakable hiss of someone trying to start a fire without waking the centurion. Your armor is where you left it last night, beside your pack, damp from dew and still faintly smelling like the last battle. Or maybe that's just you. You stretch, stand, and begin the ancient, miserable ritual of preparing yourself to march for what will almost certainly be 12 to 20 miles. On a good day. Welcome to life as a Roman legionnaire. Before we dive into the grueling, muddy, glory-light details of your day, a gentle reminder. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy historical journeys that make you feel strangely thankful for your own mattress. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is right now. We like knowing which time zones our fellow sleepy soldiers are watching from. You probably won't make it through this day, but that's okay. You don't need to. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You're a Roman soldier in the 1st century BCE, under Gaius Julius Caesar's command. Yes, that's Caesar. You and about 5,000 of your closest dusty acquaintances are part of one of Rome's most feared military machines. Your official gear includes a gladius, a pilum, a rectangular scutum, and enough layers of wool and leather to make you smell like a sheep who got lost on the road to glory. The Latin term for all this, impedimenta, doesn't just mean baggage. It means the stuff that slows you down. Which is funny, because it's also your entire job. Every morning, you carry your tent, your tools, your weapons, 3 days' worth of grain, and maybe a spare pair of sandals, all lashed to a wooden pole called a furka that makes you walk like an overburdened scarecrow on a forced march to nowhere. Historians estimate your pack weighs anywhere from 60 to 90 pounds. This is a conservative number, based on actual skeletons and not on your sore back, which claims it weighs about twice that. This morning's march begins after the third watch, which is Roman for not early, but unreasonably early. You fall into line with the other legionaries, each step kicking up dust from the dry Gallic road. A horn sounds in the distance, a long, low note from a curved cornu, and the column begins to move. Your sandals slap rhythmically against the dirt. You try not to count your steps. You fail. The guy in front of you has a limp. The guy behind you hums off key. Somewhere in the ranks, someone coughs dramatically, and no one says, "Bless you." That's not really a thing here. You're heading north today, toward a region you've heard is full of forests, wolves, and people who are not particularly excited about Roman rule. You're not worried. You've survived worse. Like that one time your tent collapsed into a drainage trench outside Mediolanum. You still find mud in strange places. As the sun finally begins to crest the treetops, the sky blushes pink and gold. It's beautiful, in that surreal way early morning is. Just before you remember your breakfast is dry barley soaked in lukewarm water and served from a dented bronze pot. You eat quickly, kneeling beside the road. You don't sit. Sitting is for when you know you can rest, and right now you can't. A centurion rides past, his helmet crest sweeping side to side like a brush dipped in anger. He doesn't speak to you, which means you're doing fine. Or he doesn't remember your name. Or both. The road stretches on. Somewhere up ahead, a scout returns with news. You hear the word Oppidum, a Gallic fortified town. Your stomach sinks slightly. You know what that means. Today may end in a siege, or another peaceful negotiation that starts with talking and ends with someone setting fire to a goat pen. Welcome to Tuesday. And yes, it's only Tuesday. Your legs don't hurt anymore, but that's not good. That just means they've gone numb. You've been marching for hours now. The line of soldiers stretches across the landscape like a centipede made of men and sweat. Dust coats your calves. The morning light is gone, replaced by something harsher, bright, hot, and very direct. You can't decide whether you're more sunburned or more dusted. Probably both. You shift your shield from one arm to the other, then back again. You tell yourself it helps. It doesn't. Midday comes with no ceremony, no lunch break, no shady olive grove with a nice fountain and a poet sighing over grapes. Just a pause long enough to chew on hard biscuit and wonder whether you remembered to waterproof your cloak. You didn't. The terrain shifts subtly. The road rises. A copse of trees clusters ahead. And then, like a trick of the light, it appears a low wall, curved and earthen, crowned with sharpened stakes. The Gaelic Oppidum. A settlement, yes, but not a city. Not a villa. This is a statement of resistance. Walled, watchful, waiting. You break formation. Orders are barked, spears lowered, shields raised. You step into your place like a cog in a familiar, if slightly miserable, machine. You have time to drink. Barely. You pour a little water onto a rag and wipe your face. It's the closest thing you'll get to a bath for 3 more days. Maybe 4. Depends on how this encounter goes. Your centurion speaks in clipped Latin. Stand firm. Advance on my mark. Keep formation. He doesn't say good luck. That's implied. The horns sound again. You begin to advance. Slow. Measured. The shields around you rise like shutters on a stormy day. You grip your gladius, thumb brushing the hilt out of habit. It's not fear. Not quite. It's just preparation. Like tightening your cloak before a gale. Arrows don't come immediately. That's almost worse. It means they're watching. Waiting. Calculating whether this is the day they die or the day they win. Historians still debate whether these early Gaelic settlements coordinated their defenses across tribes or simply relied on the terrain. Either way, you've seen them hold longer than expected, longer than Rome likes to admit. And then it starts. A shout, a cry. A stone hurled from a sling cracks against a shield 2 men down. You flinch instinctively, then reset. You advance. This is not your first skirmish. It won't be your last. The sun burns your neck. Your pack digs into your shoulder. Your arms ache. Your mind narrows into a tunnel with only one rule. Move forward. Stay in line. Do not break. A Gaelic warrior rushes the line, screaming, painted blue, like the gods won't notice if he looks like the sky. He doesn't make it past the shields. You don't see where he falls? Later, when it's over, or paused, or forgotten, you'll sit in a ring of tired men. You'll pass a wineskin and laugh about something. Maybe how one of the slingshot stones sounded like it said your name. Maybe how someone accidentally threw their shoe instead of their pilum. Maybe you'll just be quiet. For now, you are advancing, just as Rome taught you, just as you must. You don't remember the exact moment your arm started shaking, but now you're hoping no one else can see it. The shield is heavier today, not in weight, but in spirit, like it knows what's coming. You shift your grip again and again, but every position feels wrong. The wood's still damp from morning dew. Your knuckles are raw, and the edge keeps digging into your thigh every time you reposition. You glance at the soldier next to you. His eyes are vacant, fixed straight ahead. Could be focus, could be disassociation. Either way, you envy him. Your unit has stopped advancing. For now, the centurion's giving orders. Scouts went ahead an hour ago and haven't returned. That usually means one of 3 things. They're hiding, they've been captured, or they're arguing over whether to report something Caesar won't like. You take the moment to kneel, unbuckle your armor straps just slightly, just enough to breathe. Your tunic clings to your skin, soaked in a mix of sweat and whatever passed for laundry water 3 nights ago. You're pretty sure you're growing moss. You sip the last of your water. It tastes like leather and desperation. A runner arrives. Barefoot, bleeding from a toe, and breathing like he's been chased. He says something in short bursts. The centurion curses. You recognize only one word, Valum. The ditch. Looks like you're digging tonight. Rome doesn't just conquer. Rome constructs. Every night, every time the army stops, even for a few hours, you build a fortified camp. Ditch, rampart, stakes. It's the kind of sleepover that includes engineering, not rest. It's a strange comfort. If you're digging, you're not fighting. Not immediately, anyway. But it's a brutal exchange. The Roman camp is a marvel of consistency, replicated with maddening precision across Europe, from the misty coasts of Britannia to the dry valleys of Judea. Every fort, every trench, every palisade, identical, comforting, dull, exhausting. As you start to dig, the shovel handle presses against your palm like a rebuke. The soil here is rocky, coarse, not at all the soft, poetic loam of those Tuscan vineyards you've never seen. It clings to your boots and clumps in your fingernails. The guy to your left complains about the smell. You nod. It's a fair complaint. Smells like damp rot and something that may or may not be ancient goat remains. Every few feet, a superior walks by, to remind you that you're not digging fast enough. You resist the urge to throw a clump of dirt at him, barely. Historians agree that the discipline of Roman engineering was one of its greatest strengths. But historians don't usually mention the blisters, or the way a soldier can dig all night and then be asked to hold a formation the next morning with dirt still in his ears. And then, when you finally carve the ditch, you're handed stakes. Time to build the palisade, a row of pointed wooden spikes angled outward like the teeth of a bored and dangerous god. You've jammed them into the ground so many times, you start to dream about it. Every sharp edge a lullaby, every thunk of the mallet a hymn. At some point, someone brings bread, stale, warm from body heat. You chew it slowly while staring at your handiwork. It looks terrible, but it will hold. Maybe. The sun has started to slip away again. This day, like the others, collapses quietly into dusk. You don't remember what morning felt like. You certainly don't remember what your hands looked like before they became callus-shaped tools. You finally crawl into your tent just as the sky begins to darken fully. You remove your boots. One is full of grit. The other is wet. From what? You don't know. You lie down on your straw sack, shift twice, and finally go still. You can hear voices nearby, laughter, arguing, someone playing dice. You try to care. Instead, you fall asleep to the sound of digging continuing just beyond the wall. There's always someone digging. You wake before you want to, which is tradition. The sky outside your tent flap is a sort of indifferent gray, the color of ash and old soap. Your back makes a soft complaint as you sit up, the kind of pain you stopped categorizing. Somewhere deep in your spine is the memory of a bed, a real bed, with linens, and a pillow not stuffed with straw and regret. Today starts with noise. Shouting, not urgent, just ramang, the kind of shouting that says, form up, or clean your gear, or you were supposed to be on watch, and now someone's in trouble. You check your armor, still damp, still here, still smells like boiled cabbage left out in the sun. You step out and stretch. The wind hits your face like a sponge dipped in cold vinegar. You roll your shoulders and blink at the campsite, now fully awake and actively miserable. Men haul buckets, rewrap bandages, argue about dice rolls and troop rotations. Breakfast is dried peas mashed into something that aspires to be soup. You eat it, not because you want to, but because it's there. That's the Roman way. Soon, the call comes to break camp. Back to the march. Back to the wait. You hoist your gear and feel it settle across your shoulders like an old enemy giving you a hug. As you step into formation, someone sneezes nearby. You hear the quiet groan of 40 men silently hoping not to catch whatever that was. The Romans, brilliant as they were, had no idea what germs were, but they knew a bad cough when they heard one. March resumes. Your sandals find the rhythm again. Step, step, shift weight. Step, step, adjust pack. It's almost music. Very sad music. The kind that makes bards cry into their lutes. The road bends north again. Hills rise slowly around you. The sky opens wider. A messenger gallops past, no armor, just speed. Probably carrying a report back to headquarters. Maybe casualty numbers. Maybe something worse. You don't ask. You remember the last time a messenger rode through like that. 3 days later, your cohort was ambushed in a ravine. That wasn't your best week. Historians still debate whether legionaries were truly as disciplined on the march as Roman texts suggest, or if, like most human beings, they occasionally slacked off, daydreamed, or stared into the middle distance, thinking about bread. You lean toward the latter. By midday, the horizon reveals another challenge. A river crossing. No bridge. A rope is produced. 2 men strip down, shiver dramatically, and begin tying it across. Looks like you'll be waiting today. Again, You sigh and remove your sandals. The water is icy and sharp. It stings. Your knees ache. Your teeth chatter. You try not to drop your pack. You fail, briefly. By the time you're across, your tunic weighs 5 pounds more than it did this morning, and your dignity is somewhere downstream. The day isn't even over, and there's rumor of another oppidum ahead. You begin humming under your breath. Something wordless, rhythmic. The kind of song a road would sing if it had sore knees and a sunburn. You keep walking, because that's what Roman legionaries do. By now, your feet have stopped sending pain signals, probably because they've given up on being heard. You don't so much walk as drift forward through sheer repetition, a human-shaped shadow balanced by a pole, a shield, and the whimpering remnants of a calf muscle. You've been marching since shortly after dawn, and now the sun hangs above you like an insult. Hot, direct, and unwavering. Your sandals squish with each step, leftovers from the morning's river crossing, and every part of your lower half is either chafing, throbbing, or both. A man walking beside you is humming again. He does this every third hour like clockwork, some tuneless little thing he picked up in Hispania, and now cannot stop sharing. You don't have the heart to ask him to stop, or the energy. Behind you, someone stumbles. The sound is a kind of resigned slap. Body on earth, armor on body, a bit of pride somewhere beneath it all. You don't look back, not because you're cold, just because you know you'll be next, and it's better to give each other the dignity of pretending no one noticed. The line continues over a rise and down into a shallow valley where the grass has been trampled into muddy ribbons by 10,000 tired feet. The air is thick with dust, sweat, and the earthy scent of unwashed men who've eaten too much barley and not enough anything else. You pass a milestone, not one of the nice carved ones, but a makeshift stone marker someone jabbed a dagger into and etched MP 21 in sloppy Latin. Mile 21. You have marched 21 Roman miles today, which is roughly 20 miles too many. You pause for a water break, leaning your shield against a tree stump while you unsling your canteen. The water tastes like copper and goat leather, but you drink it like it's wine from the gods. One man beside you pours some into his boot to soften the leather. You make a mental note to try that next time your toes go numb. The signal horn sounds again, 2 short bursts followed by a long one. Camp preparations. Relief crashes over you like a soft blanket dipped in vinegar. You glance ahead. The site is already being staked out by engineers, and their team surveyors pacing out the rectangle, placing flags, setting up the basic grid. You could trace the layout in your sleep. Sometimes you do. You set your gear down too fast, your back grumbles, and are immediately handed a shovel. Because, of course, Rome builds as often as it conquers, maybe more. And every soldier is, at all times, expected to also be a part-time bricklayer, ditch digger, and fortification specialist. You and your cohort begin the sacred evening ritual. Vallum et fossa, rampart and ditch. The digging goes as digging always does, badly. The dirt here is less dirt and more a reluctant mix of clay and embedded gravel. It clings to the blade of your shovel like guilt. Your hands are blistered from 3 days ago, which makes today a real treat. A few tents are up already, officers first, of course. Yours is a shared canvas lean-to, barely big enough for 2 bodies and 1 pessimistic attitude. You'll squeeze into it later, bones aching, face crusted with sweat, and bits of helmet strap. Dinner is being prepared over a low fire. Barley mash, again. Someone scrounged a handful of garlic and tosses it in like it'll make a difference. The smell isn't terrible. The taste is. Still, you eat it. You always do. Because hunger is the great equalizer of flavor. Afterward, you sit in a loose ring of other soldiers. A wineskin is passed. It's slightly sour and has hints of whatever herbs the camp medicus thought might ease the nerves. You've grown fond of it, actually. It tastes like memory. Not good memory, just old. The conversation wanders. Someone tells a joke about a goat and a Legionnaire's wife. You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it feels good to use your voice. Another man pulls a carved charm from around his neck, a little lump of bone, shaped like a crescent moon. Gaelic, he says, keeps dreams away. You don't ask how it ended up with him. Night falls slowly. Someone begins to sing softly in Umbrian. The song doesn't mean much to you, but the tune drifts into the air like smoke, a moment of peace. You lie down beside your tent mate, both of you curled in opposite directions, like commas in a very long sentence. The ground is unforgiving. Your breath catches once in your chest, then releases. The sky above is clear, and tomorrow will come again. The trumpet call that wakes you is not gentle. It's the auditory version of being scolded by the gods before you've even opened your eyes. You roll onto your back and blink at the gray canvas of the tent above you. The flap stirs. Someone passes outside, muttering curses in 3 different dialects. You're not fluent in all of them, but you catch the general tone. Everyone's thrilled to be alive this morning. You sit up. Every joint files a separate complaint. The air is cold enough to sting. Somewhere nearby, a pot of barley is being stirred with the enthusiasm of a man sentenced to a lifetime of stirring. You pull on your sandals, your tunic, your armor, your expression of grim obedience. Then comes the murmur through the ranks, soft but quick, like a breeze that carries secrets. Caesar is nearby. You hear it more than once. Whispers growing into a steady background buzz. You've never seen him before. Most haven't. You've heard stories, of course. That he speaks better than Cicero, writes faster than his scribes, and rides into battle like Mars himself. That he forgets nothing and forgives even less. The camp tightens around the news. People stand straighter. Armor gets a second polish. The standard is raised a little higher. You do your best to scrub yesterday's grime off your face with a damp rag. It works, barely. And then, there he is. He does not arrive with a trumpet or banner or parade. He simply appears, on horseback, cloak slung around one shoulder, a laurel wreath woven into his hair like a joke only he is allowed to make. His eyes move across the formation, sharp and slow, like a sword deciding where to land. You do not speak. He says something to the senior tribune. You can't hear what. They both nod. Then Caesar walks the line. Closer, closer. He passes you. He does not stop, but somehow it feels like he saw you. And that's worse than being ignored. Later, you'll swear he glanced at your shield, that he noticed your boots weren't laced evenly, that he could sense somehow the small tear in the seam of your tunic. You'll remember it like a fever dream. Historians still debate whether Caesar had some kind of photographic memory, or whether he was simply very good at making people believe he did. Either way, you're suddenly very aware of your posture. After he leaves, the air changes. Orders come down quickly. The entire legion is mobilizing. No one says where, but everyone understands it means something important, possibly violent. You repack your gear with practiced speed. The road ahead isn't known, but it is inevitable. The entire camp vanishes within an hour, leaving nothing but trampled grass and the faint outline of fire pits. You march with the column out of the valley and toward the low hills. The pace is brisk, motivated, terrifying. You march faster than usual and somehow still fall behind. By midday, the heat returns. Your body aches in familiar patterns. A different kind of silence falls now. Not the silence of boredom. The silence of people preparing themselves for whatever tomorrow brings. You catch a glimpse of Caesar again near a ridge, standing still as the horizon rolls behind him. He doesn't wave. He doesn't need to. The day stretches on. long and taut like a bowstring, waiting to be released. Tomorrow, something will change. But tonight, there is only the march. The sun rises with a certain smugness, as if it knows something you don't. You're already moving by the time its pale light spills over the low hills behind you. The earth is still cool beneath your sandals, the kind of soft, forgiving dirt that will turn into clinging sludge by noon. You shift your pack higher on your shoulders, which helps for exactly 6 seconds. Then the ache sets in again, a low buzz at the base of your spine that has become so familiar it might as well be a second heartbeat. The march today is different, not faster, just more intentional. You can feel it in the way the centurions bark their orders with clipped precision, in how the scouts gallop ahead and don't look back, in how no one in your cohort has tried to sing since dawn. There's talk of a river, a ford, a village just beyond it, a place marked on no formal map, but very much present in the minds of those who live nearby, and perhaps, just as importantly, in the mind of Caesar. You've heard the officers say it softly, like a man might name a toothache that's getting worse. Establish presence. You know what that means. You reach the river before noon. It sprawls like a lazy snake through the valley, wide and slow and shallow enough to cross barefoot with some careful navigation. A few farmers watch from the far bank, their silhouettes framed in reeds. When they see the legion crest the hill, they scatter. You don't blame them. The bridge must be built. Rome does not cross like a guest. Rome crosses like it owns the concept of crossings. The engineers arrive first, small, wiry men with more rope than personality. They assess the terrain and begin snapping orders like twigs. Timber is dragged from nearby woods. Stones are rolled from the hills. The thud of hammers soon mixes with the low hum of frustrated Latin. You, of course, are drafted into the labor. You always are. You dig. You lift. You balance on unstable scaffolding while someone yells about angle of compression, like you're a failed student in an architectural academy. A man to your left swears loudly after hitting his thumb for the 3rd time. You offer him a sympathetic grunt. Lunch is brief. Half a loaf of barley bread and some dried figs that taste like they once lived near sweetness, but have long since moved away. You sit with your back to a stump and your eyes on the river, which glistens with indifference. A small fish jumps. You imagine trading places with it. The afternoon brings more hammering, more measuring, more creative curses in Greek from a soldier who insists the bridge is crooked. You carry boards until your hands go numb, then carry a few more. When your shift is done, you sit in the dirt and peel off your sandals. Your feet have begun to resemble boiled leather. The bridge, at last, begins to resemble a bridge. Not beautiful, not elegant, but roman, functional, heavy, inevitable. By dusk, the structure is stable enough to cross. You test it with 2 carts and a donkey. The donkey protests, then complies. This is seen as a good omen. The camp is raised quickly along the near bank. Fires are lit, tents staked, the perimeter checked twice. You take first watch with 3 others. You're stationed at the base of the bridge, staring upriver, where the fog begins to roll in thick and low. There are no sounds tonight, not from the woods, not from the river. Even the wind feels uncertain. Later, someone brings news of a Gaelic village a mile away. Quiet, too quiet. No resistance, no contact, just empty homes. You wonder if that's the same as peace. You lie on your back as the fire burns low, eyes tracing the constellations you don't remember the names for. Somewhere above you is Jupiter. Or maybe Mars. You can't be sure. You were better at Latin than astronomy. You shift, turn, and curl against your pack. Sleep comes slowly, like everything else. You wake up feeling older than the Republic and just slightly less organized. It's barely morning, but the camp already hums. You rub your eyes and watch the river reflect the sky, pale and streaked with cloud. The bridge you helped build looms over the water like an exhausted centurion, upright, battered, and slightly resentful. Orders are shouted before you're fully dressed. Form up. Cross. You eat half a strip of salted meat and wash it down with water that's begun to taste like the inside of your canteen. You join the column as it shuffles toward the crossing, each man loaded down with the weight of tools, weapons, and weary anticipation. You step onto the bridge. It groans beneath you like an old warhorse. The planks shift under your feet. The ropes creak. You grip your shield tighter and keep your eyes forward. One man mutters a prayer under his breath. Another just holds his breath the whole way across. On the far bank, the forest waits. Thick, still wet. Mist clings to the undergrowth. It swirls around your ankles as you move, curling upward as if trying to remember your shape. The path narrows quickly. Branches reach down like they're trying to whisper secrets to your helmet. The mud thickens. Every step feels like a negotiation, and you see it. The village. It doesn't rise so much as emerge. Huts of timber and mud, arranged in a wide crescent around a central clearing. The doors stand open. The fires are out. Smoke curls lazily from a single chimney. But there is no one. You move in formation. Shields up. Weapons sheathed but loose. No resistance. No attack. Just absence. A pot boils on a hearth. A child's tunic hangs on a fence post. Bread lies half-sliced on a table. Whoever lived here, they left quickly, and not for the first time, you suspect. You search the huts, one by one. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just places where life paused mid-motion. Your centurion orders a perimeter. Guards are stationed. Signal fires are lit. You are told to stay alert, but not to antagonize. Not yet. You walk to the edge of the clearing and sit beneath a beech tree. Its bark is marked with carvings, swirls and lines in a language you can't read, but recognize as sacred. You feel like you're intruding. Back at camp, a soldier begins cleaning his armor with deliberate intensity. Another sharpens a knife that's already sharp. A third lays out his belongings in perfect rows. A coin, a tooth, a piece of twine, and a small wooden charm carved in the shape of a wolf. That evening, dinner is quiet. Beans, bread, a bit of cheese that smells like courage and defeat in equal measure. The wind picks up just after dark. The tents flap. The trees rustle. Someone sings very softly, the same song they sang 2 nights ago beside the river. You never learned the words. You don't need to. You lie down in a borrowed hut with a roof that leaks slightly, but somehow still feels like shelter. Historians still debate whether villages like these surrendered or simply vanished on purpose, to rob Rome of its conquest. You don't know the answer, but tonight it feels like you're not winning anything, just standing in the empty space someone else once called home, and waiting. The morning begins with a bowl of lukewarm grain and a high, unsettling sense that you're being watched by someone who isn't there. The village is still empty, still silent. You wake with a stiff neck and a strange itch on your left ankle, which may be a bug bite, a curse, or a mild case of Roman pessimism. You shift under your cloak, staring at the roof beams of the abandoned hut above you. They're crooked, but holding. A good metaphor for you, really. Outside, the fog hasn't lifted. If anything, it's thicker. The kind that clings to skin, clothing, and the gaps between your thoughts. You pull on your sandals, still damp from yesterday's crossing, and step out into a street that should have chickens and children in it, but doesn't. Your unit is already forming up. No one talks much this morning. The fires are smoky, and even the veterans seem quieter than usual. The centurion issues the day's orders in a low tone. Patrol, sweep the woods, show presence. The same old liturgy. You break into groups of 5. Shields out, formation loose. The mist muffles your footfalls. The woods are dense and dark, even though it's morning. Branches reach low. Underbrush crackles. Somewhere to your right, someone mutters a prayer to Fortuna. You step over a fallen log that looks too deliberately placed to be a coincidence. You keep moving. There's a rustle. You stop. Everyone freezes. But it's just a deer, startled and bounding off into the gloom. It shouldn't make you jump the way it does. But your nerves are stretched thin, like a bowstring that's forgotten its purpose. Hours pass like water through fingers. You find nothing. No traps, no scouts, no villagers. Just an odd arrangement of stones in a clearing that looks old and too symmetrical. A shrine, maybe, or a warning, or both. You return to camp before dusk, empty-handed and not at all reassured. Your tent mate tells you he found a string of feathers hanging from a branch and brought it back. You tell him to put it back. Dinner is lentils and a piece of bacon so thin you're not convinced it wasn't sliced off a statue. You chew it anyway. Later, around the fire, talk turns superstitious. Someone claims to have seen eyes in the woods. Another says the village never had people in it at all, that it's a decoy, built to draw you in, hold your attention, drain your energy. You laugh weakly, but you don't entirely disagree. A messenger arrives just before nightfall. He's young, dust-covered, eyes wide, new orders. Pack up by dawn, move out, cross into higher territory. A new outpost is being marked on the maps. There's a ridge to claim, a vantage point. You nod and pretend this is fine. Back in the hut, you lie on your back again and stare at the same roof beams. They creak once, then settle. You close your eyes. And for a moment, you dream of your own bed. A straw mattress in a sunlit room. Your mother's voice in the next room. Bread baking somewhere nearby. Then the wind sighs against the wall, and the dream fades. You pack before the sun rises, half asleep and entirely resigned. The orders are clear: leave the village, move north, claim the ridge. A higher position, they say, more strategic, easier to defend. You hear the words in the centurion's voice, but you see them written in Caesar's hand. His campaigns always curve upward, toward elevation, toward control. You stuff your gear into your pack, the same bundle you've packed 100 times. Cloak, shield, rations, regrets. Your sandals are barely dry. You don't even check the stitching anymore. If they fall apart, you'll walk barefoot. The column forms just outside the village. The bridge stands behind you, mist curling around its base like it's trying to decide whether to follow. No one looks back as the last tent is struck. The standard bearer adjusts the eagle on his pole. Its golden wings gleam faintly, even in the fog. You march uphill, slow at first, then steadier as the forest thins. The trees here are taller, spaced out like sentries. The air sharpens. You breathe deeply, the cold cutting through your ribs like vinegar through wine. You can feel the slope beneath your knees. The ridge reveals itself around mid-morning, a long, narrow spine of land, rising like a watchful brow over the valley you've just left. From here, you can see the rooftops of the village, the meandering river, the stretch of road that led you in. It looks peaceful from this height. It doesn't feel peaceful. The camp goes up quickly. There's a practiced urgency to it now. Trenches, ditches, perimeter markers. Everyone moves like they've done this 100 times. Because they have. You're assigned to watch duty after the second meal. You sit beneath a half-finished palisade wall, shield resting beside you, gladius across your knees. You chew dried apple slices from a small cloth pouch and think about the taste of fresh ones. The ones your grandmother used to slice thin and dry on the roof tiles at home. From the ridge, the wind has a voice. It whistles through cracks and bends the trees below. It sounds like conversation at the edge of hearing, like the villagers might still be speaking somewhere, just one hill away. A pigeon lands near your boot. It looks at you sideways, as if wondering what sort of creature sits so still in armor. Then it flutters off again, smarter than you, probably. Later, the signal fires are lit. Smoke curls up into the twilight sky in straight, careful lines. Roan smoke. Controlled. Planned. Even your smoke is on a schedule. You sit with your cohort around a fire. Someone tells a story about a campaign in the east, how the soldiers there believed certain winds could carry curses. That if you stood in a doorway and felt the wrong breeze, you should leave immediately and never return. Someone else spits and says, "The only curse I fear is another 12-mile march." You laugh gently, and then it's quiet again. That night, you sleep under a tarp stretched between two pikes. The ground is hard, but level. Your dreams are strange, full of fields that walk and rivers that speak. You wake before dawn with a chill in your chest and a taste of something foreign in your mouth. The ridge is quiet, but it watches. And you wonder, not for the first time, whether you're conquering anything at all, or if you're just keeping watch over what was already leaving. The morning begins with frost on your sandals and a strange stillness that doesn't match the birdsong. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes against a horizon that seems farther away than it was yesterday. The ridge is quiet, too quiet, though the camp is technically bustling. Armor rattles softly in the mist, orders are spoken low, and a pot of barley groans over a fire too reluctant to boil. Everything sounds softened, like the world's been padded for your comfort and your unease. You chew breakfast without tasting it. Your teeth work the barley like it's penance. You try to listen to the men around you, but the words melt in your ears. Something about terrain. Something about the standard needing to be raised higher. Something about the centurion not looking anyone in the eye today. You're assigned to perimeter patrol. Again, the wind up here comes from every direction, each gust carrying the smell of pine, dirt, and distance. It cuts through your cloak and bites gently at your cheeks, but not cruelly. You grip your shield a little tighter and keep your eyes on the path curling down the hill. The village is still visible in the valley. From here, it looks almost innocent, like a painted model of a village, something a bored noble's child might set up on a table and rearrange for fun. You know better. You round the corner and see a new detail. Something wasn't there yesterday. A small pile of rocks, stacked neatly beside the edge of the trail. Nothing big, just 4 stones balanced carefully. Too carefully. You stop. You kneel beside it. The stones are cool, dry, freshly placed. There's no inscription, no marking. But this kind of thing isn't Ramon. It's something else. You glance down the slope. No footprints, no movement. You say nothing when you return to camp. Because what would you say? That the wind made a decision. That the stones were watching? Instead, you report that the path is clear, which is true, if not complete. The camp gets a visit later that day. A higher-ranking officer, flanked by 2 guards. His breastplate is polished, and his voice is clipped. He speaks to the centurion, and the rest of you pretend not to notice. You hear the word Britannia drift through the air, like a rumor with teeth. He leaves after an hour. When the centurion returns, he doesn't explain anything, but the atmosphere tightens. Orders are repeated. Patrols are doubled. The cook gets less generous with portions, which is usually a sign that something's about to move. That night, you're not assigned to a watch, but you don't sleep deeply. You lie under your tarp, staring at the stars, wondering why some of them seem to shift when you're not looking. The wind changes direction twice. The embers of your fire refuse to die out. And in your dream, someone places a stone gently into your hand and says nothing. By dawn, the ridge is buzzing. Not with sound, but with tension. There's a shift in the way everyone moves. Boots strike the ground a little harder. Cloaks are tied tighter. No one laughs. You dress without speaking, pack your kit in practice silence, and join the column before the sun fully clears the treetops. The order has come. Leave the ridge. Advance north. This is what Rome does. Builds, waits, moves. The march takes you higher still. The hills grow steep, covered in pine and low cloud. Mist gathers in the hollows and hovers like smoke. You can't see more than a few feet ahead at times. It feels like marching into memory. By mid-morning, the trail levels out. The column stops at the edge of a plateau, where a narrow pass cuts between two hillsides. The scouts report strange activity ahead. Abandoned carts. Tools left mid-use. A broken fence, mended from the inside. There's no sign of an enemy, but there's a feeling. The centurion orders a defensive line to be drawn across the mouth of the pass. You and the others drop your packs, unpack stakes, and begin carving a barricade from whatever trees haven't already been claimed by previous conquests. The wind doesn't stop, and the trees creak like they're trying to warn you. You hammer a stake into frozen soil. It splits down the center. You try again. The second one bends. You give up and help dig the trench instead. Lunch is a handful of beans and 3 olives. You eat with numb fingers, staring at the tree line. It's quiet. Too quiet. The perimeter patrols return early. One found a fire pit still warm. Another reports hearing drums in the distance. The third just shakes his head and sits down, saying nothing. The sun begins to dip. The light fades quicker than it should. And then, just after dusk, the signal fire on the far ridge goes dark. One moment it's there, steady, flickering. Then, gone. No sound. No shout. Just a soft exhale of flame. The centurion gives new orders. Stand to. Weapons ready. You grip your gladius and stare into the mist, waiting for something you don't know the shape of. No attack comes, but sleep does not either. You take your turn on watch, walking the edge of the camp. The trees stare back at you, dark shapes against darker sky. You think you hear a whisper, but it could be the wind. You could swear you see someone standing by the pile of stones from the day before. You blink. They're gone. You say nothing. The fire crackles low beside you. You warm your hands, then your face, then pull your cloak tighter and try to remember why you joined. Someone nearby begins to hum. Not a Roman tune. Something local. Something older. You don't ask them to stop. You just sit in the dark, hand on your blade, waiting for the dawn, and hoping it brings something easier to understand. At sunrise, no one speaks of the fire that went out, not because it wasn't seen, everyone saw it, but because there's a quiet understanding in the camp, now that acknowledging certain things gives them shape. So you rise with the others, strap on your gear, and pretend your eyes aren't still lingering on the direction where the signal fire used to burn. Your breakfast is colder than usual. A few beans, a wedge of something allegedly cheese, and water that tastes faintly like damp leather. You eat mechanically, watching steam rise from the morning fires in soft ribbons that vanish almost too quickly. The fog is heavier than it should be this high on a ridge. It clings to your hands like wet wool and makes the armor around your ribs feel tight. You're assigned trail-clearing duty again. You think it might be a punishment, but honestly, it's hard to say anymore. The centurion's tone has changed, quieter but sharper. You and 2 others hack at brush and low-hanging branches, while the wind teases the hem of your tunic with cold fingers. Each step forward feels just slightly uphill, no matter which way you turn. As you reach a bend near a small outcropping of limestone, your boot scrapes something deliberate. You look down. A pile of stones, carefully stacked, not a cairn. Smaller than that, more personal. 4 smooth rocks, one with a hole worn clean through the center. You pause. You kneel. They're fresh. The moss beneath them is still bright green and flat. Someone made this last night, or this morning, while you were sleeping. But no one was supposed to leave the perimeter. The soldier beside you, Titus, kneels beside you. He doesn't speak. He just nods once, slowly, then stands again and walks away. You don't report it. The rest of the day is strangely quiet. A group of forward scouts returns early. Their expressions are grim, unreadable. One man has a tear in his cloak, a tear that looks too clean to be from brambles. Another carries a branch, short, twisted, and etched with unfamiliar markings. No one asks questions. Later, a runner arrives from the southern flank, disheveled and pale. He's escorted directly to the senior officer's tent. He says nothing to anyone. You see him once more that day, seated near the supply wagons, staring into a bowl of stew he doesn't eat. That evening, rations are cut again. Not because you're low, though you are, but because someone has locked the grain cart. And the man with the key hasn't been seen since morning. At the fire, the dice games are gone. The usual songs are replaced by silence and the slow sharpening of blades. The crackling of dry pine in the flames is the loudest thing anyone wants to hear. You sleep lightly under your tarp, blade within arm's reach. And sometime in the early hours, you hear it again. The sound from last night, a knock, not closed this time, not at your tent, somewhere down the hill. A single deliberate tap. Then nothing. No animal cries, no shifting wind, just stillness. And in the stillness, your heart refuses to slow. You lie awake for what feels like hours, eyes locked on the underside of your tarp, body stiff with the kind of fear that doesn't shout. It hums, low and steady. When morning finally comes, you rise like the others. You don't speak of the sound. You pack faster than usual, and the road ahead feels a little darker than it did the day before. The next day begins with a question you don't say out loud. Are we still the conquerors, or are we simply being allowed to walk forward? You feel it in the way the column moves. Slower, less like a proud wave of imperial might, more like a procession that forgot who's in charge. The higher ground is ahead, another ridge, one that supposedly gives better vantage and firmer control of the valley routes. You march uphill for hours. The trees begin to thin. The air sharpens with altitude, laced with the smell of pine sap and cold earth. The wind slices through your cloak like dull knives, and your breath puffs visibly with every step. It should feel invigorating. Instead, it feels watched. Mid-morning, the trail turns sharply between two tall stones, naturally placed but oddly symmetrical. Someone jokes that they look like gateposts. No one laughs. Beyond the bend, the landscape opens into a clearing. Wide, flat, quiet. Too quiet. It should feel like an advantage, like you found a stronghold, a defensible space. But you can tell by the way the centurion's jaw tightens that he doesn't like it either. Scouts fan out. You're given perimeter duty. Again, you walk the outer ring of the camp, boots crunching frost-covered grass. You notice things you didn't before, tiny bundles of twigs bent into shapes that don't seem natural. Not threatening exactly, just ... intentional. You don't touch them. By midday, the firewood gathered doesn't burn well. It hisses and pops, and the flames flicker sideways against the breeze. The cook swears under his breath and adds more pitch. Another signal fire, 1-3 ridges west, goes dark around dusk. It doesn't flicker. It doesn't fade. It just vanishes. No light. No smoke. As if someone had pinched it out with 2 fingers. The centurion doesn't make a speech, but he doubles the guard. You eat cold lentils and dry meat beneath the twilight, sitting back to back with another soldier who's been humming under his breath for hours. He won't stop, and no one asks him to. That night, you sleep inside a crude lean-to with a sloped roof and half a wall. You wake twice. Once to the sound of something heavy in the woods, snapping twigs and a soft, rhythmic scrape. And once to the unmistakable sound of someone knocking on a shield. You sit up, heart pounding. There's no one there. Everyone else is asleep, or pretending to be. When dawn finally comes, it's slow. The sky takes its time warming. The wind carries no birdsong, just cold, and the memory of a sound that you didn't dream. You rise. You don't speak. You shoulder your gear. And for the first time since joining the Legion, you wonder, quietly, deeply, if you're walking into enemy territory, or if you've been in it for days, only now starting to realize it. You wake not to sound, but to absence. The kind of absence that feels like everything around you is holding its breath. You rise from your thin bedroll and immediately notice the cold. It has teeth today, sharp ones. The frost is spread across the inside of your helmet, thin as spun glass, delicate as a thread. No one speaks, not at first. Men dress in silence. Armor is strapped on without banter. Blades inspected without comment. Even the fires burn without their usual crackle, as if the very air has been told to hush. Your hands are stiff as you lace your sandals. It takes longer today, and you fumble with the knot like it's your first day in the Legion. Someone nearby lets out a shaky breath. It sounds louder than it should. The camp is breaking down, slowly, deliberately. Not like a retreat, but not like a triumph either. Just a movement. Forward. Because forward is all that's left. You're assigned to rear watch this time, which you'd normally complain about. Today, you're relieved. It means you're not first into whatever's waiting beyond the northern rise. You tighten your belt and settle your pack. It feels heavier than yesterday, though you haven't added anything. Maybe it's just the weight of knowing. The march begins late. There's a delay when one of the mules refuses to move. Its eyes roll back. It plants its hooves and trembles like it knows something you don't. The handlers shout. Eventually, it's left behind, tied to a tree, braying in protest. You don't look back. The trail is narrower now. The trees taller. The world is quieter, still. It no longer feels like you're marching into wilderness. It feels like you're walking through a threshold. No birds. No wind. Just you, your boots, and the sound of breath. Mid-morning, the formation pauses. You hear murmurs ripple forward. A question passed back like a ripple on still water. At the crest of the rise ahead, there's something in the clearing. A structure. Not a fort, not a shrine. Something else. Stone, low to the ground, circular. You reach it eventually. It looks ancient. Older than the village. Older than the ridge. Covered in lichen and age, but strangely untouched. Like the forest has grown around it, afraid to touch it. The centurion hesitates, and in that moment, something cracks. You feel it, not in the earth, but in the tension. The illusion of control breaks. No orders are shouted. Men just stop. You're allowed to rest. No one tells you why. You sit near the edge of the stone circle, watching your breath fog in the cold air. You touch the ground beside you. It's warm. That night, no camp is made. No tents. No fires. Just silence. You sit under your cloak, wrapped in the fading light, and think about the stones. You dream again. Of footsteps. Of eyes in the trees. Of someone gently knocking, waiting to be let in. And now the march is over. The road behind you fades, slowly, softly, swallowed by the hush of pine needles and memory. You loosen the straps of your armor, feeling the weight lift, inch by inch. The cold remains, but it no longer bites. It simply settles, like a blanket drawn over the hills. The fire is low now. The embers glow, pulsing like a heartbeat, steady and slow. You hear the rustle of distant branches, not threatening anymore, just present, a part of the rhythm. The stars overhead shift slightly in the night sky, steady and quiet, as they've done for millennia. You trace the arc of one, blinking slowly. Your body settles into stillness. Your breath slows. The ache in your feet has become something almost pleasant, a memory of movement, now distant. In the distance, someone walks the edge of camp, but their footsteps are soft, careful. You close your eyes. The forest breathes around you. The stones wait. And sleep, at last, finds you. You are still. You are warm. You are home.